me, is that something that's, because you're allowed to lien for labor, services, or material that are furnished to the property. But does the watering of the palm trees, is it actually incorporated into the property? No, it kind of actually seeps in and disappears. Is it there for its permanent benefit? No, the water disappears. Or maybe you could say it gets soaked up into the palm trees. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a,
you understand
it
how
became a dispute of, you know, the plants and how they were delivered and everything else. And, you know, if you put a lien on it, how much are you going to get out of it? Just get the plants value out of it.
Like
That's
I
what
say,
we're saying.
if it's better to be safe and side on the side of caution, err on the
What
side
you
of
can
caution.
prove, right.
And then for the rest of the claim, just all right. So let's say that the palm trees were $20,000 and the maintenance was $10,000. You lien for 20, you sue for breach of contract on the 10.
I see.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, you sue for breach of contract on the full 30.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
You're just not going to have a lien for the other 10.
I see.
Okay. I'm not saying you don't have a claim. I'm just saying it's not a lien claim.
Okay. Another question was on the change orders clause. You said it's best not to have them, but can you still put a change order clause? Can you still make a change order and still be paid for it? If you don't have it in the contract? Because I think that's what the contractor wants. They want that in there so that they can say, hey, we had you sign this change order, or does it become a separate contract?
I'm talking about the scenario where a contractor forgets to get a written signed change order. If you have a signed change order, you're in the clear, you're in the gold. Okay, that's not a problem. I can see that this is an addition, an extra to the contract. And the lien law specifically says extras or change orders in the definitional section are lienable. There's nothing wrong with that.
But it's not a separate contract, even though it wasn't stated as a clause of the original contract. That's my
If
question.
you're submitting it as a change order, I think then we all see that it's an extra to the original contract.
Okay.
If you're submitting a whole separate contract, then it's a separate contract, in which case you're going to have a whole nother lien filed on that separate contract. You're not going to be able to lump everything in together. 71309 says you actually only have to, you must have only one lien. So you got to watch for that. But if it's a change order, it says change order on it, it's an extra, it's a revision to the general scope of work that you're already doing. And who's not going to see that as being just a revision to the original contract?
Even though there was no clause. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was the question. Well, I don't know. Anybody else has a question?
Continue.
On the laborer, that was the only other question I had on the laborer. You said, you know, a laborer can place a lien,
Right.
but a laborer is an individual, and should they do that without an attorney, or can they do it with an attorney at a district court?
Yeah, they can do it without an attorney because they're an individual representing themselves. It's companies that can't represent themselves.
I see.
Okay, because unless you're in small claims court. Small claims court, people's court, otherwise known as, but companies can represent themselves in small claims, but they cannot represent themselves on lien claims because the small claims courts have no jurisdiction over lien claims. But individuals, they can represent themselves all the way through to the Supreme Court if they want to. The reason why people, officers of the company, can't represent a company in courts, again, I'm talking above small claims court, is because corporations are fictional entities. It's our way of making up our pretend friends. They don't really exist. I, as an attorney, represent you. I'm representing somebody else. Okay, that's what being an attorney is about. I get to represent somebody else's interests. So if you're going in there as Mr. Joe Schmo, officer of the company, what it really is Joe Schmo representing a third party. You are not the same as your company. It may be your company, you may have 100% ownership in that company, but you're not allowed to represent that company.
Okay.
Okay, unless you're an attorney. And that's where the problem comes in. Okay?
All right, thanks.
Anybody else?
Randall, you said something this morning about proving that the material was for the project when it was delivered. Should you put something in your delivery ticket or something? What were you talking about?
I was saying that on your PO, what you should have is a box that's usually on the left or on the right that identifies the project, and some sort of clause that says that these items are going to be delivered to this project or used for this project. Something being signed by somebody affirming that these items are only going to be used for this specific project. And I'm not saying that's a panacea, I'm just saying it just helps you. Because let's assume that the contractor actually picks up the materials and doesn't actually deliver it to that job site. The owner is then going to be put on the stand, and they're going to say, I never got the items, and then you're going to have the burden of proof to show that it actually was there. You're then going to show, hey, wait a minute, I got this document right here that says that it was delivered to the site. I'm going to object as hearsay to the extent that it proves that these items were actually delivered to the site. So now that document, that portion of the document is out that it was actually delivered to the site, we're going to have to call in the contractor or whoever says can testify personally that they delivered those items to the site. Do you follow?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like I said, it's not a panacea, but it's the best I can offer you. Now, let's assume that you actually deliver the items to the site. You have made a prima facie case that those items were actually incorporated into the project. When you're relying upon somebody else to deliver the items.
No, my husband delivers the steel to the project,
Okay, well, there you go.
and he gets somebody to sign that it's delivered.
Great.
Okay,
Great. That's the best thing that you can really do.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking about the scenario that's harder to prove when it's an over-the-counter sale.
Okay.
But when you yourself or an agent of yourself is delivering the items to the project, there's a prima facie case that all of those items were actually incorporated into that specific project, and you lien for those items that were delivered. Okay. Anyone else? Bueller? Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, what we have here is I'm going to be passing out, how many of you are licensed contractors?